a true workhorse of Cold War UK. Deployments to the Middle East, utilized by the Hong Kong police force, purchased by the Ukrainian army for the War of Donbass. The list goes on. The height of the Cold War in the UK and Europe brought about many well-publicized challenges. However, behind the scenes, mundane logistics issues continued to plague the UK's armed forces, being routinely deployed to the continent. 7 days to the River Rhine in the late 70s, for example, a large-scale scenario that depicted the probable outcomes of an all-out 7-day push west from Soviet bloc forces, was one of many possible scenarios, making it crucial for the British Army of the Rhine to remain always ready. Troop movement from the UK to the Rhine was proving difficult and inefficient. Tracked vehicles were not suitable for the long journeys along paved roads, and were relatively slow, in addition to higher operation and maintenance costs, along with workload compared to alternatives. Tensions were escalated in the area, but did not justify armored regiments or hot drops into LZs, just to ferry troops and light equipment to and from routinely on long hauls. A faster, more efficient, relatively high capacity, easier to maintain solution was needed. Bedford, having long been a staple in Britain for short-haul trucks since the 1930s and provider of military converted variants since World War II, had entered into the long-haul game with the Bedford TM in 1974. The TM entered military service with a largely unchanged variant in 1981, and this made for a nice, common platform on which to begin building the Saxon, which then entered service in 1983. Meant to be an improved version of its predecessor, the AT-104, modifications to the TM platform to bring the AT-105 to life would include the driver's position on the right with the engine on his left, although a handful were modified later to left-hand drive by second-hand operators around the globe. The commander seated directly behind the driver and passengers in the rear compartment with seating for 8 to 10. An angled bottom hull, or tub, of welded steel for mine and IED resistance. Incorporated into the tub, a monocoque body of welded steel at various angles, with thickness to withstand up to 7.62mm armor-piercing rounds. The original Bedford engine would be utilized from the TM, the Bedford in-house 8.2-liter 6-cylinder diesel, producing 164 horsepower and 541 Newton-meters or 400 foot-pounds of torque. Some second-hand operators would also swap these relatively low-powered engines out later. Coupled to an Allison AT-545 automatic, the Saxon would also utilize Bedford's 4x4 configuration from the TM. With on-road top speeds of roughly 100 km per hour, or 60 miles per hour, and a fuel capacity of 153 liters, it boasted a range of about 480 kilometers or 300 miles. Being a battle taxi and expected to primarily travel swiftly over mostly paved roads or minimally challenging terrain, the underpowered engine seemed sufficient, at least for the task of traveling at speed. However, the Saxon was heavy and had an empty weight of roughly 9,940 kilograms or 11 US tons. Reportedly capable of tackling water fording up to 1 meter or 3 feet deep, a 30% side slope, a 60% gradient, roughly 1.3 foot high forward step climbing, or between 0.41 to 0.45 meters, just over 1.5 foot wide ditch crossing, or 0.5 meters, a departure angle of 40 degrees, an approach angle of 48 degrees, and a width of just over 8 feet. UK deployments included Afghanistan, Iraq, Oman, Bosnia, amongst many others. Little more than a lightly armored, modified truck, getting familiar with the Saxon's variants means getting familiar with many of its partner and second-hand operators around the globe. First deployed in 1983 to Germany, British Army variants included a recovery vehicle with side-mounted winch, command vehicles, and typical armaments would include a roof-mounted 7.62mm turret. But the Saxon's service life, at least for the UK, would be abruptly cut off. According to General Francis Richard Dannett, I took these out of service by the UK Army in 2005, 2006 as completely unsuitable for current operations, so I find it incredible that they are being sold, gifted to Ukraine. I am incensed by the thought we are supplying, even via a third party, Saxon APCs, to the hapless Ukrainians. They are quite useless, semi-armored lorries that should be nowhere near anyone's front line. Although important to note, General Dannett was highly criticized for his role in the controversial Land Rover Snatch deployments. Nicknamed the Mobile Coffin, the Land Rover as a 4x4 off-road vehicle, while certainly capable, as far as armor and safety of passengers, the Snatch program's, quote, up-armored versions made the Saxon look like a main battle tank by comparison. Dannett was also a major proponent of BAE's Pinzgauer Vector program. Many felt all of this was a major conflict of interest, and collusion the reason for the Saxon's sudden removal from British service. Many have changed hands via collectors, enthusiasts, and auctions in recent decades. Notable uses by second-hand operators over the years. The Hong Kong police utilized a reported 7 total for their special task force from the late 80s through 2009, replaced later by a variant of Mercedes Unimog. Ukraine has a reported 75 they received in 2015 and saw use in the War of Donbass, which, being rather recent, means many are likely still operational. Other countries like Mozambique, Malaysia, Somalia, Iraq, the Congo have taken second-hand delivery within the last decade or are even still operating Saxons currently. One example can be found at the Imperial War Museum at Duxford Airfield in Cambridge, and as of 2012, there was one located at the REME, or Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers Museum in Chippenham, UK. Still serving some of these second-hand operators to this day, it seems the Saxon long outlived its detractors' low expectations in many ways.